So now we have our academia lab. Have you ever thought of how universities and students doing research are so important for new initiatives, and now especially on alternative protein? So today you can meet some projects with students from Alternative Meat Lab at UC Berkeley. We have Brian Wong, also from UC Berkeley. We have Patrick Negulescu and Justin Wong from UC Davis. And our host today is Nick Johnson from UC Davis as well. So Nick, can you take it from here, please?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the introduction. So welcome everyone to the Academia Lab portion of this symposium. I'm happy to share the stage with some fellow students working in the alternative protein space. And so today we have a team from Berkeley who's going to present on plant-based proteins. And we have a team from UC Davis who's going to present more in the cultivated meat space. So I just wanted to re-emphasize some of the keynotes that people have talked about today, including Cara and just now. It's really critical to fund academic research in this space so that we can have a more foundational springboard for companies and entrepreneurs to develop this technology in the future and make more pathways for this technology to be accessible. So we'll jump right in, and Kelly Chow and Brian Wong are going to take it away and talk about their research.
All right, hi everyone. So first we're going to start with a brief presentation, and we're going to be talking about our projects within the UC Berkeley Alternative Meats Lab course. We want to preface that these were academic pursuits done for a great adoption, but I have continued involvement in the lab, and I'm currently doing research that is diving deeper into protein texturization after the class. So first, let's have some intros. Kelly?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly. I'm a recent UC Berkeley grad, and I'm excited to talk to you guys today.
And I'm Brian. I'm a rising senior, and I'm a bioengineering undergraduate. Thank you for ProteinX for giving us the opportunity to talk about our work. The structure of the alt meat class was split into two semesterly projects, and these are the topics that we want to focus on today. So first was customer need finding, the cultural significance of meat, and how can we improve consumer acceptability of alternative meats. This is laying the foundation and the groundwork for a lot of what the next semester was on, which was technical product design. We just wrapped up a project on the meat characteristics, including fat and different tissue structures, and how we could replicate whole cut meat. So we'll start with fall first. We were taught very early stage product design skills from instructors at the Stanford D School. And subsequently, we conducted 10 ethnographic interviews. We followed the ethnographies of college-age students around California who were flexitarians or curious about alternative meats. And we learned about their food culture, the history of food in their family, and acceptability overall regarding their alternative meat consumption. Honestly, we accepted this acceptability to be a linear, streamlined scale and an increase. But as technology got more and more similar to real meat, we found through almost all the stories and testimonials a trend that we were proud to frame as the uncanny valley effect. If you don't know, the uncanny valley is an idea for science fiction or robotics that the closer you are to a human likeness, the more unsettling it looks. It dips down before it gets super comfortable. You can see this in, say, animatronics that have weird proportions or they just don't blink or something. It's pretty popular in horror movies as well. And so for food, and at least for college-age students with minimal background knowledge in this space, just general consumers, we found that it's not just about taste. There's a similar effect for some small degree in how they view meat substitutes. The more and more realistic they looked, the more and more they were averse to trying it, or at least trying it only for a novelty. So we defined this as an unknown process, a black box, if you will. And so from our findings, we wanted to stress that companies should have a more urgent push to demystify this fog of the uncanny valley through education, outreach, awareness, or maybe even a middle ground, like a stepping stone kind of product. So speaking of, we also roadmapped a very rough systems diagram of this. If you stare long enough, you can find marketing section, environmental impact section, guiltiness as a factor for switching to alternative meats, But we focused on tackling the technological complexity. All right, so a potential solution could reduce this complexity and replace uncanniness with a greater acceptability. Therefore, a greater adoption of eating and buying it.
We took our research and ideas from the fall class and transitioned into the spring alt meat class, which was focused on the technical product design of alternative meats. The cultural need finding of the spring class was actually a really important foundation, but we still needed to understand the nuts and bolts of how to actually produce an alt meat product that fits those consumer needs. We were tasked specifically with the challenge of producing whole cut alt meats, the natural successor to the wildly successful hamburger, ground, and processed alt meat products that are already on the market. We identified 3 key difficulties with making convincing whole cuts. First, that the meat and fat have distinctly different compositions and microstructure. Second, that the structured fat is still in the very early stages of development. Cooking behavior in particular is really difficult to mimic. Third, that these 2 layers, one hydrophobic and one hydrophilic, need to be connected into a single product. So we decided to go big and replicate pork belly, an iconic and representative whole cut, and it's also a meat type that has not been well researched compared to beef or chicken. So we started out by researching existing recipes for pork belly, which didn't really satisfy our needs. Most were really uniform or pancake-like in texture, and the layers were really only differentiated by color differences. We iterated on these early prototypes with thorough ingredient research and testing. Please enjoy this highlight reel.
Microcrystalline cellulose at 4%, 2 to 3% carboxymethyl cellulose, 2% gel and gum LT100. This is 2% carboxymethyl cellulose and 2% iodocarrageenan by weight. This is 1% microcrystalline cellulose and 1% gel and gum LT100. It's still slightly thick. That's thick. It's extremely thick. It's very creamy. Yeah, it's not that thick. It tastes like a liquid bean. Doesn't do anything.
And by the end of the semester, we ended up with a pork belly prototype that we were really, really proud of, and that we're actually continuing to develop following the class based on the great response we've received from the UC Berkeley community. We hope this has given you all some insight into the alt meat class at Berkeley. We did this as undergraduate students from the countertops of our apartments due to the remote semester. So we learned how to develop alternative proteins with household ingredients. We hope this shows the things that are possible when students are empowered to do research. We're also open to any feedback on our pork belly. Please feel free to reach out if you're interested.
Awesome. Thank you guys for that. I'm actually super curious what ended up happening with the final texture of that product. You mentioned like one of the key issues with the products that you found recipes for was differentiating between the fat and the more muscle meat side of things. What did you guys do, and how did your final product end up kind of mimicking that duplex in structure?
Yeah, I can take that one. So we found that the reason why those other products weren't really satisfying in terms of texture were because they were so focused on replicating the look of the layers without, differentiating between fat and protein, that they were using starch bases that were easy to bind together and layer and color with different, coloring ingredients. Whereas for us, we decided to actually go the hard route and make a separate protein and fat layer, which actually creates a much more convincing textural experience.
Yeah,
cool.
And you can see in the vegan bacon landscape right now, there seems to be a trend to just color one section red, but have the same overall base ingredients for both sections. So with that in mind, we wanted to really emphasize instead, Kelly focused on different fat structures and I focused on different meat texturization structures at home. And then we met after getting vaccinated and combined the two. And I can just say with confidence, it's really convincing. It's actually eerily convincing.
That's cool. Yeah, I've definitely made some seitan products where it was exactly what you're talking about, where it's just like kind of a different color and more of the look, but the taste is basically the same. So I'd be super interested in in trying what you guys have come up with. Did you guys have any like early stage feedback that helped in the process of iterating on this recipe or coming up with this design?
Yeah, we actually consulted many other startup founders and companies. And I mean, again, we're just fortunate that there's such an open just response from the alternative meat landscape, just having an emerging market like this, and everyone's so excited. You know, it's great to hear just a lot of feedback. I can't name drop off the top of my head, but we spoke to at least 8 or 9 different founders as well.
Yeah, that's awesome that they were open to discussing that with you. It's really cool.